Welcome to Keeping It Real with KC. I am your host, KC Phoenix, and this show is going to get people raising a lot of eyebrows. Whew. I even poured me some water. I feel like this episode may be longer than I would like for it to be, but I will do. Actually, no, I'm sitting here looking at my notes. Okay, I don't think. Or no, as I go further into the notes, yeah, this might be a long one. Uh, oh boy. I had to take another sip of my water. All right. As you've seen from the title of the episode, Should You Sleep with Someone Who is Married? First of all, I need to say this is a no judgment zone. I also need to say this is not encouraging anybody to do anything at all. So I just need to make that clear. Another thing I want to add to this this is my disclaimer. I am not a licensed doctor, psychiatrist, attorney, or accountant. The only thing I'm licensed to do is give my opinion and tell my truth. If you want a licensed point of view, please go to a licensed source. This is just me giving my opinion. As I said before, this is not encouraging anybody to do anything. This is to add context to a situation that people find themselves in sometimes. This is not what I call a rationalization type thing where someone is on the fence of dealing with, well, not even on the fence, someone is planning on dealing with someone who's married, but then they look for some type of sign, and then the Keeping It Real with KC show pops up, and then they're like, should you sleep with someone who's married? Oh, well, KC said, no, don't use the show to rationalize anything. All I'm doing is adding context to a situation. That is all I'm doing. So I want to make that clear. I'm not advocating for people to go out and look and find married people. And there are people who do that. And like I said, this is a no judgment zone. I don't judge people, which is probably one reason why I know so many secrets. Because people tell me stuff and it's just like, okay. And I don't tell secrets too. I keep everybody's secrets, which is another reason why people probably tell me secrets. And yes, I know what really happened to Jimmy Hoffa. All right. Now, let me go into my notes here. I need to make this clear too. Regardless of what the situation is that I discuss during this episode, I want people to understand that when you're dealing with someone who's married, I'd comfortably say 95% or higher of the time, they will not leave their spouse. I don't care what the orientation, I don't care if it's, male married to female, female married to male, male married to male, female married to female. I don't care. More than likely, 95% or higher of the time, they will not leave their spouse. I don't care what they tell you. I'm telling you this because I'm honest and I can't be anything but, because the name of the show is Keeping It Real with KC, so I'm keeping it real. But also, I don't like for people to have false expectations or false hope. And I'm not saying that it can't happen. I'm just saying that it more than likely won't happen. The reason, and this is my belief, the reason that it usually doesn't happen and people stay with their spouse and never leave, some people say, oh, well, I stay for the kids. Personally, I call BS on that. I don't think we're in an age now where people can explain stuff to kids, and kids can handle more than people give them credit for, in my opinion. I think parents should be a lot more honest with their kids, quiet as it's kept. That's just my personal opinion. You can say how you feel about my personal opinion in the comments, but that's just how I feel. I feel parents should be more honest with their kids and not paint everything with rose colors. But the reason people usually stay with their spouse is because people like the familiarity. That is my personal opinion. Why someone doesn't leave their spouse most of the time is because they like the familiar. They know that, okay, this person doesn't squeeze their toothpaste this way. They roll up the tube. Oh, this person doesn't like boiled eggs. They only like their eggs scrambled. Oh, this person is a horrible driver at nighttime, even with xenon lights on. You know, this person does not know how to swim. So they don't want to go on a vacation to a place where there's a lot of water. This person loves to hike. So they're going to want to go and do this. And the list goes on and on and on. When you're in a relationship with someone, you start to learn over time a person's habits. And as you learn their habits, you adjust accordingly. And side note, let me insert something here. When I say adjust accordingly, I'm not saying change the person who you are just to be with somebody. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that when you deal with someone for a long period of time in a marriage or in a relationship, but we're talking about married people here, you put it in your file what they don't like. Like with the eggs thing, you know that such and such doesn't eat boiled eggs. You may love boiled eggs, and that's why what I'm saying, you don't change yourself. You don't stop eating boiled eggs just because your spouse likes scrambled eggs. You fix yourself some boiled eggs, and then you can fix whoever some scrambled eggs and tell them to fix their own damn eggs. It's whatever. But you already know, okay, well, I'm about to do some boiled eggs. I know not to make boiled eggs for my spouse because that is something that you know. For someone that is not the spouse, you'll know little things, but you won't know everything. And that person is not as familiar, quote unquote, as the spouse is. That is why I personally feel that people don't leave their spouse when they have someone else on the side. Now, the person on the side will become familiar to a certain degree, but it will never be on the level of a husband and wife, regardless of how much the two people connect. It'll never be on the level of the married spouses, regardless of how much the one spouse cheating connects with the side person. So that is my personal opinion, why people stay in their marriages. Now, with marriages and sleeping with someone who is married, if you decide to go that route, it would be best for you to determine what situation you're in if you're just coming into the situation. Some people are thrown into the situation because the spouse doesn't say anything. That happened to me twice, where I found out after the fact. There was some naivete on my end because I didn't ask, because I was thinking, well, if someone's married, they'll tell you they're married. Because, well, I can't say if I was married, I'd tell, because if I'm in a marriage, I'm in a marriage. It is what it is. If I don't want to be with you anymore, me personally, I will leave. So, but that's just me. But if you're thrown into a situation and you're finding out after the fact, or you're finding out right before, you need to determine what type of situation it is. I sat down and I did my notes, and from what I noticed, there were 4 situations. And we're already at 11 minutes. See, going into 12 minutes. I told you this was going to be a minute. Okay. Situation 1. The individual is married, but they have permission. So that means that the 2 spouses, they're like, hey, we're going to be in a marriage together, but you can do what you want to do, and I can do what I want to do, but don't bring anything home. And for those, you know what that means. So that is situation 1. That particular situation, if you are of a, really for all these situations, if you're of a religious background, then all of this would be off the table anyway. If you're kind of in the moment where the spirit is weak but the flesh is willing, then you have to weigh it accordingly. But I wouldn't get too attached, especially since the spouse already knows that their significant other goes out and does what they want to do, and they have their thing where it's open. It's an open relationship. Because usually, to a certain degree, those type of relationships are probably one of the strongest. I'm not going to say the strongest, one of the strongest, because it takes a lot of, I'm looking for the word here. It takes a lot of security. It takes a lot, security of people being very secure with themselves to let their spouse go out like that and not be worried. But also it takes another level of security to deal with that type of honesty within a relationship. For two people to be honest with each other, and mind you, like I said, this is a no judgment zone. I'm not in open relationships. Me personally, I don't want to come across like psycho. I'm do I want to use this word? Oh, the hell with it. I'm kind of possessive in a relationship. What's mine is mine. And so me personally, I couldn't do an open relationship. But for those who do, more or open marriage, more power to you. Open relationship, open marriage. Now, but as I said, it takes a lot of security within yourself to be that honest with your spouse to say, hey, this is what I would like to do. And for the other spouse to say, oh, okay, yeah, I'm open to that idea. And then they just do what they want to do. That's situation one. So if you're thinking about ever not breaking up, but if you're thinking that the spouse will ever leave, that is one of the extreme cases of them not, where that goes from 95% to 99.9%. They are more than likely not ever going to leave their spouse for you. So I wouldn't even expect it. The second situation is a little bit similar. Situation two is the unspoken open relationship, where both parties know that they're stepping out, but they never verbalized it with each other. They never said anything to each other. They just know, where somebody found someone's telephone number or a certain text in the other person's phone, and then they're like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to go ahead and do my thing. I'll just look the other way and they can do their thing, and I'm not going to say anything to them, and they're not going to say anything to me, and that's going to be that. It could be like that, but you won't know unless you have a conversation with the individual. Those are, I wouldn't even get my hopes up on that either. If you decide to move forward, don't invest too much in it. I wouldn't invest too much in it at all. The third situation, and the reason I named this the third situation, is the individual wants to bring you in with the spouse, and the spouse has agreed to this. This isn't what I call an open marriage. This is more what I call sort of a marriage with group interaction or group input. So with that situation, I'd be careful, because not only are you dealing with one person's emotions, you're dealing with two, because when people get together on the physical level, there's still some type of emotion there. It may not always be a lot, and it varies on a case-by-case basis. Someone may have a lot of emotions when they're dealing with someone on the physical level, and their emotions just may be low. But there's always a little bit of emotion there, even if it's 0.00001%. There's always a little bit of emotion there. And when you're dealing with two people, you're dealing with a set of emotions, versus in a situation one or a situation two, you're just dealing with the one person. Now, that is, with the situation one, situation two, that is where you are dealing with one person on the emotions level, because for the situation one, the spouse has already given their consent to say, hey, go do what you want to do. On situation two, the spouse hasn't verbally given their consent, but they just don't care. So they're not that invested with situation one, in situation two, with the spouse that's not in the get together. But in situation three, all three parties are involved in this get together. So all three people are having emotions tossed around. And it may be a thing, which I know has happened to some people, where the married couple brings someone in. It was one spouse's suggestion, but the other spouse that didn't suggest it ends up catching feelings for the person their spouse brought in. And I've seen that happen. So for situation three, just keep in mind that you're dealing with an additional party that has feelings, and that's bringing that into the mix, which can really, really, really complicate things if the feelings become strong over time. So I just want to throw that out there. Then there is situation four. Situation four is I don't want to say saddest, but it's the most complicated, in my opinion, even more complicated than situation three, because there's a lot of work that has to go into maintaining the outside rendezvous, or should I say maintaining the rendezvous outside of the marriage. Situation four is where the other party doesn't know. The husband doesn't know that his wife is having an affair at work. The wife doesn't know that her husband's having an affair at work. The husband doesn't know that his husband's having an affair at work. The wife doesn't know her wife is having an affair at work. Or an affair through whatever, because secrets are hid and many lies have to be told. And that's the thing with situation one. And that's why I said situation one is a marriage that is brutally honest, where they're open. Situation two, it's not a thing about honesty, it's just a thing about they don't care. Situation three, pretty much brutally honest, but you're dealing with feelings. Situation four, there isn't any honesty there. There isn't any room for any honesty there. And that is another situation where feelings do become involved, the feelings of an additional party, because the other party doesn't know their spouse is out doing whatever they're doing with another individual. So should that information come to light one day, that creates its own type of domino effect. And again, this is a no judgment zone. Things happen. The heart wants what it wants. The body wants what it wants. I'm not judging anybody. I'm just letting you know that with this situation four, if you're dealing with someone and their spouse doesn't know what they're up to, and the truth comes out one day, a new set of feelings will be introduced into your situation. You don't know how those feelings, let me rephrase, you don't know what those feelings will be, what type of feelings will happen, what will be the emotion. Will it just be hurt? Will it be anger, rage, revenge? You don't know what is going to come out of the bag when those emotions, those feelings of that party that didn't know what was going on with their spouse, when that is introduced into the equation. That is something that you have to keep in mind. You don't want to wake up one day and then this person's spouse is at your job or does something to your car or, even on worse levels. And I've heard of worse levels through some people that I've known personally over the years. So you have to keep all of these things in mind with all four of these situations. And this is going on about 30 minutes. So I really want to wrap this up. And I just want to go back over briefly what the situations are. So situation one, individual is married but has permission. It's an open relationship. It's an open marriage. The spouses don't care. Long as parties don't bring anything home, they're all good. And as long as they're honest about doing it, meaning if one spouse goes out and does something, they'll let the other spouse know they went out and did something. It isn't, oh, well, I'll tell you the first time I went out and did something, but then the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth time, I don't bring it up. No, usually with open marriages, they tell each other everything. And those are sometimes some of the strongest marriages. Not my type of marriage, but they're still sometimes some of the strongest marriages. Situation two, individual is married, but spouse looks the other way. So she figured it out or he figured it out. It's like, whatever. You do your thing, I'll do mine, but we're not going to have a conversation about it. It's just whatever. That mentally, emotionally, the spouse is usually checked out because they're like, okay, well, that person's cheating on me, so all right. And then the third one is where the spouse and the person you're dealing with both want to bring you in for a rendezvous. And then you're dealing with two sets of emotions when things become physical. And then you have to make a decision on, do you want to be a one-time thing or do you want to repeat it over and over and over again? I can tell you that if you repeat it, someone will eventually catch feelings. Eventually. Mark my words. They will. And then situation four, the other party doesn't know, which is what I say the worst situation of all, where someone thinks that their marriage is great, everything's wonderful, everything's fine, whether they have kids or the perfect life or whatever. And then they find out one day that things were not so perfect, that the one that they had been loyal to, the one they had thought was being loyal to them, was out with someone else. That is when other emotions are introduced into the situation. So with these situations, take the information I gave you and analyze. Don't rationalize. Analyze and determine if it's something you want to go forward with. And don't be afraid to ask the person too. Does your spouse know? Have you had a conversation with your spouse? Are you trying to get me in bed with your spouse? Is this supposed to be a regular thing? Or is this just a one-off? You don't know unless you ask. But don't go into a situation with someone who is married if you choose to do that. Because as soon as somebody tell me they're married, I'm like, okay, look at the time. So yeah, I mean, everybody has exceptions to rules from time to time, but yeah, and boy, could I tell you some stories. But you have to make a decision and decide what works best for you and what will least affect your life, whether it's emotionally, physically, and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm not telling you what to do. Just figure out what situation you're in, analyze, and then take it from there. That's all I got. This episode was 31 minutes long. And I got to make this chicken. All right. Thank you for listening to Keeping It Real with KC. Like, share, subscribe. Comment in the section how you feel about the situations mentioned. You could even say, would you sleep with a married person? Have you slept with a married person? I'm not judging you. KIRWKC.com. KIRWKC is the Twitter handle. KIRWKC is the Instagram handle. That is it. Thank you so much for watching or listening to the show. Be blessed.